It's mid-October and the spooky season is upon us, and so it is the perfect time to put in that scary flick to help you get into the Halloween spirit. Horror is my favorite movie genre, however, I know most people do not enjoy it as much as I do, so I thought it would be helpful to give you guys a healthy mix of horror movies so that anyone and everyone can find a movie that's right for them. Every horror movie is composed of two main elements, mystery and the horrific, and the unique combinations and ways that these movies tackle these tropes are what makes some stand out and others fall flat. Horror is a very relative term. It's an umbrella term that holds many subgenres. And what some find scary, others might not, and vice versa. And this is what I think makes horror such a controversial genre. However, at the end of the day, I'd argue that there are 5 main subgenres of horror movies. And today I'm going to give you my top 5 for each of these 5 subgenres. The timestamps are in the description in case you're looking for something tailored to you. If you're looking for something fun, whether that be cheesy and campy or something you can throw on at a watch party, head to slasher or monster. If you're actually looking to be scared out of your wits, head to psychological or supernatural. And if you're looking for something in between, head to thriller. Starting with my favorite subgenre and my favorite horror movie is 2017's #1 monster movie, It Chapter 1. This movie impressed me on every level: the score, the child actors, the story of fear and growing up, and even the jump scares. Now sure, this wasn't the scariest movie I'd ever seen, nor was it even the scariest movie I'd seen that year, but it wasn't trying to be, and everything it was trying to be, I think it delivered on. Bill Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise the Dancing Clown was fresh, menacing, and ruthless, and overall this movie was everything and more I had wanted from my favorite piece of horror literature turned motion picture. Number 2 on the monster movie list is my favorite classic, Gremlins. This is probably the horror movie I rewatched the most. The score is amongst my favorites, and the unique story of little Furbies turning into evil goblins and running amok the town of Kingston Falls never dulls on me. Plus, it being a Christmas movie means I get to watch it twice a year, which is always a plus for me. Number 3 is A Quiet Place. As soon as I heard that Jim from The Office, aka the notorious John Krasinski, was going to direct and star in a horror film, I had no idea what to expect. But this one absolutely blew me away in the theaters. I can't remember the last time I was in a crowd of people where everyone was so scared to make a noise. I'm still afraid to rewatch this one, not just because of the horrific tension that it builds, but also not to tarnish the memory of my first experience with it. Number 4 is Alien. Alien is no doubt one of the classics when it comes to horror. I have some issues with it, but overall I cannot argue with the fact that it is a masterpiece of filmmaking. I just wish I could have seen it in the theaters for the first time like my parents had the chance to. Alien is, I believe, the most discussed and written about films of all time due to its groundbreaking chest-bursting scene. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out for yourself. Ha! Number 5 is John Carpenter's The Thing. This movie is almost every kind of horror movie. It's got psychological elements and thriller tendencies, but at the end of the day, it's a monster movie that forces its characters to distrust everyone, because you have no idea who the monster could be. This shape-shifting monster masterpiece didn't do so well originally with critics, but it quickly became a cult classic, and although it's a bit outdated for my taste, I couldn't make this list without including it, even if that puts Jaws into my number 6 spot. Sorry, Jaws. I wore your shirt to make up for it. Starting off the slasher movies at number 1, I have Scream 2. The Scream franchise is hands down my favorite horror franchise. The first one is easily a classic, but for some reason, I've always resonated with the second one a tad more. There's honestly no real reason for it, it's just how it is for me. If you've never seen a Scream movie, start that marathon immediately. All the fans argue over their favorites and which one is really the best, but they all deserve much love and attention. Number 2 is another John Carpenter classic, Halloween. I'm also going to include 2018's direct sequel, which was also confusedly titled Halloween. These two together make for an excellent watch party, as you can please the horror fanatics who cling to the classics and those who want more gore and intensity in their horror films. Number 3 is Child's Play 2. Most fans can agree that the second one was the best made Chucky film. It built off from the first extremely well, building the tension and increasing the intensity of the evil doll. I love all three Child's Play movies, if I'm going to be honest. I don't have nearly as many issues with the third as most critics do. This year's reboot of the franchise was also a fun and fresh take, and I would certainly recommend it to any horror cinephile. Number 4 is Freddy vs. Jason. I had a tough time picking between Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, so this was the best compromise I could make. The legendary showdown between two of horror's most famous killers is a great movie to throw on for a Halloween party. And although the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is worth mentioning, number 5 is going to go to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. This timeless classic is one of the revolutionary additions to the genre, and without it, we'd never have gotten my favorite drama series of all time, Bates Motel. Now we're diving into a bit more of treacherous waters, so viewers beware. Starting off the list of my favorite supernatural horrors is The Conjuring 2. The first Conjuring movie was almost flawless, but yet again, for some reason, I'm more drawn towards the second. It did a few things that made it scarier for me. It built more tension with its characters, using new horror elements and visual tricks I hadn't seen before, as well as incorporating a storyline that questions the validity of the haunted. Plus, it puts the Warrens in an actual place of danger, which strips the film's sense of security away, which is something the first just couldn't do. There's a reason the Conjuring universe is the most successful horror franchise right now. I definitely recommend giving it a look if you have the stomach for it. Number 2 is the classic, The Exorcist. This one cleared the way for those to follow in its footsteps, and it is still able to deliver terrifying and chilling moments thanks to its religious origins. And my god, that creepy walk always gets me. Number 3 is Insidious, both 1 and 2. That's right, I'm cheating. Deal with it. I honestly couldn't decide between the two. They felt like two chapters of the same story for me. The first started the franchise as one of the best supernatural horrors, in my opinion, but the second was able to pay off so many things that the first one set up. Besides the relatable characters and interesting world building, my favorite thing about these movies is that the director puts little things in the background that aren't required to be seen by viewers, but when they are noticed, they add a disturbing element to the scene. Number 4 is Trick or Treat. This one is a delightful take on the genre, as it's an anthology horror that consists of 5 interwoven stories that make for a fun or terrifying watch. You decide. Lastly, at number 5 is The Blair Witch Project. I had a tough time placing this one as it is tagged as a psychological horror on IMDb, but for me, it's the supernatural elements that make it what it is. This movie has a famous history behind it. Long story short, when it was first shown, they didn't tell its viewers that it was fake. It was the first of its kind to present the movie as a found footage film, and it scared the bejesus out of its viewers. But there's more to that story, and I highly recommend not only watching this one, but looking more into the making of this movie, including its shocking and controversial ending. Next up are the psychological horrors. These ones are designed to screw with your head, and for me, there is no better than Oculus. When I first saw this on Netflix, I thought it would be a fun one to watch with my new roommate at college, but my lord, I was always one step behind, just as the director wanted me to be. And it wasn't until the very end, when it was just too late, that I finally understood the mind games this movie performs. As far as first watches go, this one still hails as king for me. Number 2 for this subgenre is probably the most beloved classic, and another one that critics love to hate, The Shining. Stanley Kubrick shows his mastery of the camera with his chilling shots and perfect framing. He also adds elements that don't make sense subconsciously that your brain picks up on and makes you feel further uncomfortable. This is the only film inspired by Stephen King's works that the king himself does not enjoy, but that hasn't stopped its cult following, and it won't stop me from putting it on this list. Though I will add that the book is 10 times better, and it deserves a read from anyone and everyone. Number 3 is actually one that pulls a lot from Kubrick's style, It Follows. The director and writers did a great job at creating this shattered atmosphere that distorts perception and creates a certain disconnect with its viewers. There's unusual technology that doesn't exist in our world, plus there are scenes of swimming outside followed by walking outside in 3 layers of clothing. The seasons also don't seem to be nailed down either. This adds to the uncomfortability the filmmakers want the viewers to feel subconsciously. Plus, the story of a monster that constantly follows you at a slow pace is enough to drive anyone crazy. Number 4 is Robert Eggers' directorial debut, The Witch. On my first watch, I honestly did not enjoy this movie. It was hard to understand the characters due to their literary English tongue, but I gave it another chance over this past summer and was able to see what others praised it for. It's a slow burn, which I'm typically not a fan of. Hereditary, for example, is currently the community's favorite slow burn film of recent years. However, I couldn't connect with that one. The Witch, however, won me over. Lastly, for this subgenre is probably the most divisive film of 2017, Mother. Going into the film, I was worried from all the hate this movie was getting. However, after sitting on it for a couple years now and speculating on its message with other fans in the community, this one is arguably the most creative and intelligent horror movie I've ever seen. Its commentary on the Bible story of creation is genius. I will say though that this one is super artsy, so don't watch this one expecting a thrilling, easy to grasp horror flick. The final subgenre I'd like to talk about are the thrillers. And no, I'm not talking about Michael Jackson's greatest hit. Starting at number 1 is my second favorite horror film of all time, Don't Breathe. The sheer terror and tension this movie builds and the horrible atmosphere it creates has yet to be rivaled for me. The story is captivating and interesting, and it makes you care for these broken and flawed characters seemingly instantly. The shocks and twists will win you over, and the thrills it creates will keep you coming back for more. At number 2 is The House at the End of the Street. Another Jennifer Lawrence movie that knocked my socks off the first time I watched it. Max Therio, who also plays a main character in the previously mentioned Bates Motel, also makes a name for himself with this film, while also confusing me for looking shockingly similar to Jesse McCartney. Seriously, is it just me? No? Oh, okay. Number 3 is M. Night Shyamalan's Split. This one quickly became one of my favorites. I'm a sucker for psychology, so the use of a character who suffers from multiple personality disorder quickly got me into the theater. But the shocking thrills and unraveling mystery is what kept me there. This movie does a lot of things great, and while no, it isn't the best of its kind, it still impressed me greatly. Plus, the twist at the end is one for the record books. Sitting at number 4 is Jordan Peele's directorial debut, Get Out. This one quickly rose at the box office thanks to its shocking 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and its social commentary and chilling storyline will keep it fresh for the foreseeable future. Last but not least is one that stuck with me for a very long time, Prisoners. There are a lot like this film, too many in fact. I plan to actually make a whole video about these crime mystery thrillers. There are a lot of good ones out there, but for some reason, when I think of intense mystery crime thriller, Prisoners is the one I go to recommend to other horror fans. This one's intense, it's sad and uncomfortable, and its mystery eats at you until a satisfying conclusion. Plus Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman in the same movie? Yes please. Well, there you have it. 25 fantastic horror movies for all types of viewers. Now you have no excuse to watch at least one horror movie this Halloween season. If you liked the video, please hit that like button and share it with someone who you think needs a little bit of horror in their life, whether that be a movie buddy, horror fanatic, or one of your exes. Till next time, everybody, creep it real. Get it? It's like keep it real, but creep it real. Never mind.